Welcome back to another episode of the Thumb Strong podcast. So today we're going to be diving into phase 2 of our M3 nutrition system. So last week we talked about phase 1, which is like our metabolic reconditioning. So it's first about healing our from within, kind of resetting the metabolism, reducing inflammation, getting that insulin sensitivity improved. So Bethany, what does phase 2 kind of look like? If you want to kind of give me a quick intro on that.
Yeah, just a quick intro for that. Now that everything's running smoother, it's easier to focus on these next things. So, what is phase 2 specifically? So, it's just about building that metabolic flexibility. So, it's your body's ability to efficiently use carbs and fats as fuel. And most people are either stuck, really having sugar cravings, things like that, like blood sugar roller coaster, all of that, or they try to do like keto or chronic low carb, and then that ends up with some energy crashes and potentially some hormonal issues there. So working on just building in both, just making sure every meal is balanced, like you'd have some carbs, some fats, not too much of one or the other, or too little of one or the other as well. And so it just helps give you steady energy and a better athletic output and easier fat loss. That's the main goal. Is just you were primed with phase 1, and then phase 2 gets a little bit more specific, and you built the foundational habit. The biggest thing is just the habits and the routines. Is like phase 1's focused on, all right, we're building the healthier routines, we're setting up those foundational habits, so that way you can kind of hit the ground running with phase 2. And so you get a strategic calorie deficit, so nothing too aggressive or strict. This allows people to stick with it easier and more long term. And then you can maintain or increase your lean muscle while doing this as well. And it teaches the body to switch between that fat burning and carb burning very efficiently. And then you get better hunger regulation, performance, body composition through all that.
Awesome. In this phase, each phase that we're talking about, so like M1 or phase 1 is about 12 weeks. Phase 2 also about 12 weeks, could be up to 16 weeks depending on how everything's progressing for that person. So kind of we're focusing on more visible fat loss and gaining energy and strength by building lean muscle. But what's cool, and I'm sure you'll get into it, but is we're actually going to be introducing more fueling to help boost the metabolism even more, so that when you kind of come back down to that maintenance, you continue to burn body fat, right?
Yes.
So what is kind of the main focus for clients as they're going through phase 2? What are they going to be working on? What does that kind of look like as the weeks progress over those 12 to 16 weeks?
Yeah. So it's broken down into 2 different like mini phases. The first part is the 3 pillars method. So I went through a certification to learn about this way of styling, nutrition coaching, and things like that. The first one is protein target, which is 0.7 grams per pound of body weight, but no more than 150 a day. Okay. It just as a baseline. You can obviously eat more than that, but getting that minimum helps to preserve lean muscle during your fat loss, helps to improve your satiety, reduce hunger cravings. And then you have a higher thermic effect of food, so you end up burning 20 to 30 more calories just because protein is harder to break down in your body. And then the second pillar is 800 grams of produce, or beans, legumes, potatoes, all that counts too. So think fruits, vegetables, potatoes, beans, lentils, all that counts, as long as there's no like added sugar or anything like that. The biggest thing that's doing is giving you loads of micronutrients, which is going to help if you do have any deficiencies to give you more energy. You're going to have better digestion because you have more fiber and the better nutrients, and you're going to get more water just through eating those types of foods. You're going to feel more full, so you won't be having all these extra cravings or want little extra snacks after meals as much, because you'll be fuller and for longer. And then it also just helps to regulate your blood sugar and your appetite in general too.
Yep.
And then the third pillar is the calorie tracking. So this is just for awareness and the fat loss part of it. So a 10 to 20% calorie deficit. So that way you're not starving yourself. So an example of that would be if you eat 2,000 calories a day and that's your maintenance level, then a 10% deficit would be 200 calories. A 20% deficit would be 400 calories. And that's pretty much ideal because you don't want to go too much less than that. You run the risk of losing muscle mass as you're dieting. And yes, it's not going to be super fast. It's going to be 1 to 2 pounds a week on average of fat loss. 2 pounds is going to be for somebody who's a little bit heavier and has more body fat to lose. It's easier for you to lose that faster if you have more starting. But if you don't have a lot of body fat or as much weight to lose, then expect more of like that 1 pound a week average weight loss. But biggest thing is just maintaining your strength, decreasing cravings, and then improving your awareness around food too.
Yeah. Awesome. And then the next kind of part of that is the GFLUX strategy, right? Mm-hmm. So this is really cool in my opinion. And I've never really seen, you don't really see many diets or nutrition plans that kind of utilize this method.
Right.
So we've healed our digestive system. We're eating more whole foods. Our metabolism is starting to improve. We're starting to lose some body fat. So kind of go into what the GFLUX method is all about and how it's going to benefit some clients.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do with this is improve your metabolic ceiling and capacity. So by getting you to eat more at the same time as moving more, you're actually helping your body to function better just through, instead of you're doing the opposite essentially of what a diet typically does is like, okay, you get a plateau. Typically it's like lower calories, hit more movement. You end up getting a lower metabolism just because of that, just because you are pushing the limits of your body. And so instead you'll run more like the fat loss phase through that first part and then gradually add back in like 100 calories a week generally. And then focusing on increasing daily movement steps or like maybe getting a little bit more weightlifting in, something like that. So that way your body essentially learns that, okay, we get more movement, more fuel, more movement, more fuel. And so teaching your body that the food that you're taking in is fuel for that activity and you're able to utilize it better. And so that will help to continue improving body composition. So getting leaner, reducing body fat, increasing muscle mass, whereas the scale might not move a ton while you're adding calories back in and everything like that. It's not like, hey, I want to drop all this amount of weight super fast. It's how do you improve your body composition and kind of train your body to do that, where you are gaining some lean muscle back if you did lose any in that fat loss phase, which hopefully not, but you can continue to increase your strength, increase your energy, all of that great stuff. Mm-hmm. And then it helps to adapt your metabolism going higher, right? So instead of 2,000 being your maintenance, maybe at the end of it ends up being 2,200. So then the next time you do fat loss, you can eat more and still lose weight.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, what it reminds me of is like almost like you're increasing your allowance. So if you thought about it from like a money perspective, for example, most diets are like, hey, cut everything down. You might be eating 1,000 calories. Whereas in this strategy, we're actually slowly working you up in calories. So maybe instead of 1,000, you're at 2,000. Think about, if you had an allowance of 1,000 versus 2,000, you have a lot more that you can spend and a lot, more that you could get away with without going over, right? So we're slowly increasing that allowance, and then you have more to spend every single day, right?
Right.
So if you are stuck at 1,000 and you accidentally spent more, like you're going to be going in the hole and you're going to be gaining body fat. That's the analogy I'm trying to get to. So with this, it's like we're doubling that allowance, so that even if you did eat more, which is going to give you more fuel, more energy, you're still in a fat burning zone. Like you're still going to drop body fat because that allowance is so high, instead of being so low, which a lot of crash diets do, is they kind of plummet the metabolism rather than boosting the metabolism.
Yeah. I mean, you can probably attest to that as far as like the calories go. I mean, you had a very high allowance for calories when you were doing, very competitive like CrossFit type training.
Yeah.
And I mean, you probably could eat 5,000 calories a day easily.
3,500 to 4,000 calories a day.
Yeah, and now you eat about 3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like that more movement, like you need that more fuel.
Yeah.
And like you might have been a little bit leaner, had a little bit more like definition or something because you were training so much more, but you were allowed to do that and your body changed and adapted because of that, because you were fueling it enough.
Yes. Just kind of describe a little bit about what that might look like. So obviously when we start people out, so like that phase 1, our goal is to get people to work strength train 2 to 3 days a week, right? And then obviously the days that they're not doing strength training, or they could do it every day, just kind of move their body for 10 to 15 minutes, at least like a daily walk, bike ride, something like that. So when we're talking about increasing the movement and the amount of fuel, the amount of food you're eating, what does that kind of look like? How much can they expect to work out or move?
Yeah, generally what you're going to want to do is if you're working out 2 days a week before, you'd want to up it to 3. And if you're working out 3 days a week, up it to 4. It doesn't have to be anything crazy for the extra day, but just a little bit of extra stimulus for your body, because everything that we do tells our body something.
Yeah.
So if you add an extra day of a little bit of resistance training, even if it's 20 minutes, doesn't have to be anything crazy, then your body's like, oh, okay, like we need more lean muscle mass to keep up with this. We need to get better at utilizing carbs for this, all of that. And then same thing with like the steps is like, okay, we increase the steps by 1 or 2,000, like 1,000 a day or something like that. So you go from 7,000 steps to 8,000. And so you're like, oh, I'm moving more. So your body does get better at utilizing fat for those longer duration pieces, and you get higher baseline of calorie burn. So that's where when you add the food back in, right, it keeps your body churning, keeps that machine churning. And then you're essentially building your body into that, okay, you're moving more, you're lifting a little bit more, so you build more muscle. That's the goal, because then that way, if you go back to, you want to do another fat loss phase, it's easier to do that.
Because that muscle's going to help burn way more calories and help you burn that body fat off. So basically, you just want to create enough of a stimulus to create adaptation.
Right.
So yeah, if you're going from 3 days a week to 4 days a week, or maybe it's 4 to 5, moving a little bit more extra steps each day. So maybe you up your step goal, just try to get that daily movement. Or maybe, for a lot of our clients, when we first start out, if they train, say, 2 to 3 days a week, we just at least recommend a walk the days that they're not in the gym. So maybe they're only walking 3 or 4 days a week. So maybe we bump that up to 5 to 7 days a week.
Right.
And then add that extra training day on as well. And that's going to create that adaptation to where you're only going to get better and more efficient, so that when you do go into that fat loss phase, you're actually able to burn more body fat as you're keeping that lean muscle mass.
Right.
Which is really cool. So.
And then just for reference, as far as like 100 calories, that'd be a typical size banana or an apple or half cup of rice, something like that. That get your 100 calories.
One
so it's not
snack,
like
one small snack.
Yeah, it's not like you're adding. Doesn't mean we're adding calories back, so I'm going to eat all these extra. It's just like, all right, we're just gradually increasing the sizes so you get back to that new maintenance.
Yeah, and it's gradual so that your body can adapt. So it's just like the training. You can't just go from like 1 day to 5 days, because then you're going to beat yourself up and you're probably going to run into a little bit of a recovery issue.
Yeah.
So by adding just 100 calories a week, it's like, okay, we'll add a little snack this week. The next week, maybe it's adding another little bit to that snack, or a little bit higher portion amount to a meal. So each week you're just adding a little bit so that metabolism has the time to adjust. Like, okay, we're getting this extra fuel in. All right, where can we utilize this and burn it? Oh, we're moving more, we're lifting more. That's where we're going to shuttle it to use it as fuel. And it's slowly going to boost that metabolism so that you're utilizing that fuel in the right places, right? So we've already obviously went into a lot of like the detail on what each of these little pillars within this phase phase does, but like, why does this work? Like, what is that benefit? Like, why does this system work for people?
Yeah.
And we've got 4 points here. So Beth, if you want to talk
there's
about those.
4 main things. We kind of touched on it. Muscle is huge, so it's just higher metabolic power. You get to, it just protects your metabolism during fat loss. So if you can maintain that during that, then it's kind of the opposite of what a crash diet would do. Is where crash diets gets rid of any weight, like it doesn't care if it's fat or muscle or water or whatever. There's like, we just need to get the weight off because it's such drastic low calorie cuts that it's like, oh yeah, the scale's moving. So like you get that cool mental dopamine boost of like, oh yeah, this is great, it's working, right? But if you end up crash dieting and losing 10 pounds, but 3 pounds of it was muscle, it's like, how much did you just lose of that hard work that you put in the gym? Or if you weren't working out in the gym, then it's like, how much is that going to cost you when you go back to eating how you were before, but now your metabolism is a little bit lower because you have less muscle.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, that's usually what it comes down to, is like, if you have less muscle, you're going to have a lower metabolism baseline anyways. And then instead of doing the opposite, where we're like, hey, we're trying to grow muscle, so in that way, when you go back to your maintenance, you can actually eat more afterwards.
I've also talked to people, and this is more on like the GLP-1s, but because there are a lot of studies that are showing that if you're not doing any strength training, just using a GLP-1, that up to 40% of that weight loss could be muscle mass. And I've actually had conversations with people that just feel completely weak at the after a few months of it, and it makes daily activity so much harder. And so it's a clear sign that they are losing that muscle. So if they ever go off of that medication, the likelihood of them regaining all that weight is very high, and sometimes more, because they have less muscle mass. So their metabolic rate, or the amount of calories that they burn at rest, is lower than when they started. Not to mention you lose bone density too. So for these people that are 50, 60, 70 plus, you have that higher risk for osteoporosis if you're not doing any kind of resistance training to help build that bone density and keep that strong. Right. So there's so many different factors that kind of tie into it. But next one, strategic carbohydrate use improves performance and fat burning. So metabolically flexible bodies don't fear carbs; they rely on them. They use either. So this supports steady energy, fewer sugar crashes, better workout output, and more consistent fat loss. So essentially, we don't need to be scared of carbohydrates, right? The GFLUX, as we were kind of talking about this, prevents the metabolic crash effect. So underfeeding lowers the thyroid hormone and metabolic rate. So keeping movement high keeps the engine warm. And then the mindset shift, restriction, we're going from a restriction mindset to a fueling mindset. So you really want to think of your body as an engine. It's an incredible, thing that we have. Obviously, it's an incredible unit, right? So we want to think of it like the better fuel we put in and the right amount of fuel that we put in, the better we're going to feel, the better we're going to operate, the better we're going to perform. And that's not just in the gym. And I feel like a lot of people overlook this.
Yeah.
That comes with the performance at work. It comes with, taking care of the kids, having the energy to play and do things and activities with the kids. Like so many of our parents, one of the number one reasons or excuses why they can't train is just time and energy and their schedules and things like that. They've got the kids to take care of, etc., and they just don't think they can put forth that energy and time. Well, by doing this exact program with the combination of strength training and nutrition, you're actually going to have way more energy and way more mental capacity. You can deal with stress a lot easier. Yeah. So everything in life, work, kids, everything will actually get better, and you'll be able to have a higher output and higher tolerance for that stuff too. So that phase 2 really creates competence. So not food fear, but you're actually looking at it as fuel. So clients learn how to eat, how to adjust, and how their body responds to foods. So this is where true ownership of your body kind of takes effect.
Right. Mm-hmm. So yeah, some benefits that you'll see from this approach of, building the metabolism back up, focusing on those pillars is, obviously that body composition change, as most people are looking for. They want that leaner body, they want more muscle definition, less body fat, all of that. But you also get the higher daily energy and fewer crashes. You get stronger lifts, better conditioning, so cardio feels a little bit easier, be able to lift a little bit more weight in the gym. And then you'll have more confidence around your food choices because you'll have more awareness from the tracking, from like, oh, okay, like I know if I feel my body just a little bit more, this is what it's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding your body more is going to help you to, like, they say, oh, love your body, whatever. It's like you need to understand your body first before you can really appreciate it and what it does and what it's capable of doing. And then you also get the metabolism benefits of it. So it feels like it's fast, like you have carbs and you can use it. It's not just like, oh, I have some carbs and I'm like, oh, I want to go and take a nap, right? Mm-hmm. And it's also mentally training you too. That's one thing, is you get the mindset shift away from food just being the separate thing, of food being, oh, okay, just just eating it separate from my body. But then you get more in tune with how, when you take things into your body, how it affects you, how it affects your body, how it affects your mind, and you just get more awareness around that too.
Yeah, awesome. A lot of great benefits.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'll say on that, like, because a lot of people who, when they come in and talk with us, specifically women, they want to be lean and toned, mm-hmm. right? We hear that word a lot. And what they're really saying is they want to have more muscle mass, less body fat. That's what lean and toned really is. So you hear a lot of people say, I don't want to lift a bunch of weights and gain a bunch of muscle. I just want to be lean and toned. Well, that's actually the exact same thing. So you have to have bigger muscles to protrude through your skin and less body fat to have that lean and toned look. So doing something like this, where you're combining that strength training and the nutrition, fueling your body, is going to be the best possible route to have that goal ideal look. Even though, more importantly, we want to focus on how we feel, the confidence, the energy, but obviously people do want to look better so that they can feel better, right? So this is all about recomposition of the body. The one thing I'll say about crash diets, fad diets, GLP-1s, if you're not doing the strength training with it, really restrictive, you're going to lose that muscle mass like we talked about. So you might still have like the saggy, skin, the flappy skin. You might, some people refer to it as like skinny fat. And so you still might not be confident or happy with how you look, because you lost that muscle mass as you're losing the body fat. So you're not going to get that lean toned look. You have to add in the strength training, the resistance training, in order to get the look that you're going for. So just wanted to point that out. And that kind of leads us into section 5, which is like the common mistakes to avoid, is cutting calories too hard is going to slow that metabolism. The fear of carbs, that's going to reduce your performance in your recovery, even energy too. So if you are working out and you're really restricting carbs, don't be surprised if you have maybe some headaches, or if you just have low energy, mental fatigue. Trying to be perfect instead of consistent. We talk about this a lot. Don't go from 0 to 100. It's not black or white. Just, it's a linear scale. Try to be somewhere around 60, 70, 80% on track. And you're going to be just fine, making those small changes each week, doing the best that you can. And then another common mistake is going to be ignoring sleep and recovery, which controls your hormones, your hunger, and your energy. So we could not stress this enough, how important sleep and recovery is for your results. Because when you're in the gym strength training and you're putting yourself through those hard workouts, that is not where the muscle is gained and the fat is lost. That's just the stimulus that's breaking down the muscle, right, and tearing it apart. It's the sleep and the recovery that actually rebuilds it so that you can come into the gym the next week stronger. right? So you really want to focus on that recovery and sleep. Sleep helps with recovery itself, but also like the protein intake. Protein is the building block of muscle. So make sure you're getting enough protein in order to rebuild and reconstruct those muscles that you're tearing down each week, right? So that was just kind of like some common mistakes that people run into. So to wrap up, phase one that we talked about last week was the reset and stabilizing and metabolism, about healing. So if you missed that, go back and watch it. This one's all about burning fat, building strength, fueling your body. We are athletes at the end of the day. If you're working out, you're a walker, you're a runner, if you like biking, you've got kids that you like to do activities with. Like, we're all athletes in some way, shape, or form. So we need to fuel our bodies like that. And then phase three. So next week, we're going to get into the last part of our journey, which is going to be all about maintaining the results for life, experiencing true food freedom. So reincorporating some of those foods we love without having to sacrifice or going the other way, right? Because it's not something that you have to do forever. That's one common mistake with a lot of diets too, is like, people think, oh, if I'm going to do keto, like, I got to do it forever, or else I'm not going to keep the results, right? So it's obviously the first, 6 to 9 months or 3 to 9 months is going to be a little bit more strict with what we're doing, with some leeway. But towards the end, we're trying to kind of open it back up and allow for a little bit more food freedom. Just kind of like what we mentioned earlier, it's just knowing what your body needs, how much of it, and then making the correct choices. So it's like just improving our food knowledge and stuff like that, right? So is there anything else that you wanted to add, Bethany, or?
Yeah, just basically that phase one is just your foundation of your habits. Biggest thing is just habits, routine, and consistency.
Yep.
And then phase two, getting into more of like the body composition focus. And then with phase three, the biggest thing with that is the maintenance of it, because that's where people can stick to a 4-week diet, or they can stick to a 6-week diet, but can they stick with whatever that they did to lose the weight long term? And so that's what the goal of this is not doing anything super restrict. And the fat loss phase, you could rerun it again and again and again with that.
Yes.
Like building out of the maintenance part. You could run it for like 3 cycles in a row if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
And be just fine, just because you have the build in there of the metabolic flexibility and building the calorie back up. And then once you hit the phase three, that's where, like you said, not being like, oh, I can't do this or I can't do this. It's all of like, oh, what I can do again. Focusing on things you can do, things you can control, because that freedom is earned through the more discipline, the more rigor of the phases of 1 and 2.
Yep. Awesome. Well, cool. So yeah, we'll kind of end on that. That M1, as she said, is a metabolic reconditioning. M2 is the metabolic flexibility, so we're mastering that fat loss and muscle gain. And then M3 is that metabolic capacity, so staying lean for life. Until next time, make sure you like and subscribe. We want to try to reach as many people as possible and help you guys each week with just health and fitness education. And then make sure you tune in next week for phase 3, which will wrap up our 1-year program, which we call the M3 nutrition system. And as we say, it's in combination with strength training. So that's kind of the biggest recommendation, and that can be done any way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah.
We have clients that are doing just the M3 nutrition system on their own at home, but they're doing, maybe they're lifting at home if they've got weights, or they have another gym they can go to.
Yep.
You can do body weight stuff. Like, you don't have to go to the gym necessarily. You can do personal training, group training, work out on your own, work out at home, in combination with this, and you're going to see amazing results. So till next time, stay healthy. And if you're interested at all in this system, make sure you contact us, and we'd be happy to set up a time where we can meet. You could also learn more at our website. So go to thumbhealthandfitness.com /services/nutrition. And we have all of the phases broken down so that you can learn more about how it works. So have a great day, guys, and we'll see you soon.